When WWDC rolls around in June, it'll be 2 years since Apple announced visionOS and the Apple Vision Pro. In this episode of the Macworld Podcast, we're examining the state of Apple's spatial computing platform and what Apple could have in store at WWDC and beyond. Stay tuned and find out more. Welcome to the Macworld Podcast. I'm Roman Loyola here with Jason Cross.
Good morning.
And Michael Simon.
Hello, sir.
In the lead up to Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in June, we're going over the state of Apple's major product categories. We've discussed the iPad, Smart Home, Apple Watch, and Apple Services, so check out those shows if you haven't already. Today, we're talking about the Apple Vision spatial computing platform, which was introduced 2 years ago, and since its introduction,
I love that. Let's use that word more often.
I don't know what word is that. And since its introduction, Apple provides updates to visionOS, but I think we can say that it's become something that kind of flies under the radar.
I can't believe it's been 2 years. It doesn't
That's what
feel
I mean,
like 2 years.
yeah.
It feels like it just came out like a couple months ago. And that's not necessarily like a good thing. It's the same. So Vision Pro came out, and it was announced a couple years ago. It came out in February of last year. $3,500, blah blah blah. We know the story. It was never supposed to be a big hit. You can call it a flop, whatever you want to call it. Like, the hardware itself is very expensive. I actually don't have one. I've never used it outside of the Apple Store demo because it's expensive. You know, I'm not going to just stroll into a store. If I have $3,000 to spend, I have way better things to spend my money on. But the bigger issue is that while it's a really nice thing, cutting edge, all these, this technology, but it's been 2 years and it basically is the same thing with the same questions. As in, even if you have that kind of disposable money to spend, and people do, should you buy it? And I don't know who would answer yes to that question.
Yeah, they keep making some welcome little improvements here and there. Like they've changed sort of the way that the gestures to like bring up you used to have to kind of look way up, not tilt your head up, but like look at the top of your field of view to like get at like what their version of Control Center. And now there's basically a little wrist flip maneuver for that. And they've changed the Mac virtual display, which is really one of the best features, to do all the display compression on the Mac side so they can send more data and you can get like a big widescreen display. So it's actually can be better than your MacBook's built-in display, And so there's all these little things like that. There's some accessibility features and some improvements for developers and all, but it still has that same fundamental problem of like, as cool as this experience is, you put it on, you're like, wow, this is amazing.
It is. Like, if you go to do the demo, it's a wow moment for sure.
Yeah, it's really impressive, but at the end of being super impressed by it, you're like, this doesn't do anything better than the way I'm already doing it with cheaper stuff. Like, this doesn't do anything I do with my iPhone better than me doing it with my iPhone. It doesn't do anything I do with my Mac better than doing it with my Mac. And even watching, its best case scenario is watching like video, like having a virtual movie theater size screen, a giant screen with awesome audio. But I'm the only one watching.
Right.
Like, I spent $3,500 and I can't watch it with somebody else like I can an $800 TV.
That was when I tried it. That was the thing that struck me the most. So the demo's like 20 minutes, and they go through all the cool things. And as I was watching the video, my one thought was, wow, I can't wait to take this thing off and tell someone about this. Like, you're so isolated while you're using it that it feels like almost like a lonely experience. And even if you're in like a movie theater, like, it's not like, that's not how it should be. There should be a sense of like community. Like, yes, I watch TV alone sometimes. Even then, I'm aware that my kid's in the next room, my wife's in the kitchen. I don't have this big thing on, and I'm just so isolated from the rest of the world.
They're aware of what you're watching and all that other kind of stuff. Like, they could at least have a feature where if somebody else has a Vision Pro, I could say, hey, me and this person are sitting in a virtual movie theater together, and when I look over, I see them, and when they look over, they see me. They see us gesture. They hear us talk with spatial audio. They're like, I'm talking to their left and they're talking to my right, and we're watching the same thing at the same time. So when we both laugh at the same moment, so like they didn't even kind of get that. They kind of have a weird feature that sort of does something, but it's not what it needs to be for that.
Yeah, and they're not the only one who have this issue. Like VR headsets are inherently individual devices, but
yes, yeah,
that's not Apple's thing, and that's not really what Vision Pro is supposed to be, because it's not really a gaming device. It's an interactive visual device.
It could be. The games that they have for it there are plenty, but they are kind of like, we took mobile games and made them into these AR experiences stuff, because they don't have controllers. They don't have that sort of precision control. They don't have buttons to press and stuff. So you have to do these kind of games that support very broad gestures with your hands, or very slow movement, like playing virtual chess against somebody else, like with them at the other side of the table, which is fine, but nobody's going to pay $3,500 for that, or $2,000 or $1,000 to have a VR chess situation or something. I think, to me, the biggest problem with Vision Pro isn't that it doesn't do all the stuff as well as other things that cost cheaper, or even other Apple things that cost less. It's that it doesn't have its own reason for being, right? Outside of 3D video looking really cool, and that's a little exhausting to watch, like, to the degree where almost everything you do on the Vision Pro is basically just taking an iPad app and blowing it up to the size of a whiteboard that you virtually place in space somewhere. So you end up like surrounded by all these big floating windows. And it's like, floating windows is not everyone's vision of virtual reality. Like, why is my clock app a floating iPad window instead of an actual virtual clock on the wall?
Right.
Right.
Like when you look at like this stuff in movies, like Iron Man or whatever you want to look at, like it's a popular thing in movies. It's never like that. It's never, tapping at a basically a big giant Mac screen with a bunch of windows. It's 3D stuff. It's diagrams. It's pictures. It's images. It's an environment.
If I'm walking around and it's pointing out, it's highlighting people's faces and saying, like, pulling up their contact info if I have them in my contacts, right? It's putting, translating speech with like live subtitles in reality hanging in the world or whatever. Like, it doesn't do any of those things.
Like you're supposed to use it indoors all by yourself.
And to be honest, yeah, of course, neither does the Oculus stuff. But they do have a much bigger library, and they have controllers, so it's a much better gaming device.
Yeah, and it's $500.
Yeah, it's like $500. Like the good one's like $800. Like, it's not. Right. You can buy you and all your friends the high-end Oculus things, and have money left over. So it's the technology. The hardware technology and all the stuff they did around eye tracking is just like next level. But they kind of never had a software vision for virtual reality. They just put floating windows in space, and it's just, guys.
Yeah, and it, not to mention the hardware is too heavy to use for more than a little while. The battery isn't long enough. It doesn't last long enough to use for anywhere near a full workday. Like there's limitations with the hardware, even if you're okay with doing what Apple says it's going to do. And, we've written numerous articles like how visionOS 2 can help. There's not really an easy answer other than fundamentally changing how it works.
Roman, is your video messed? Is Roman's video messed up?
I think it's just a video feed. Yeah, I think it's just a video feed.
It keeps going in and out, but I can still hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's something with the Wi-Fi here at work. So, because it's never been an issue before.
And you're not using? Are you using your iPhone?
Yes, I'm using the continuity camera on our iPhone.
I keep hearing it go ding ding. I keep hearing the reconnect situation. It's weird.
So I don't know.
And you're all in the same Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
They really need a feature where you just tether your iPhone to get a really solid, awesome video feed.
Right.
Yeah. It would make a great camera. Anyway.
Getting back to visionOS. Yeah. So at this point, visionOS just feels like a really expensive single person television to me. It's,
Yeah, Vision Pro, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, the Vision
Kind of.
Pro, Vision Pro.
Right.
Thinking about the whole platform, I just wonder if it's even a viable platform, if it will ever be. I know Apple is supposed to be in it for the long haul.
I'd like to know if anyone at Apple, any of the higher end Apple people, use Vision Pro to get work done on a regular basis.
It's funny. There was that profile of Tim Cook not too long ago where he talks about how he uses every product every day. And he talks about how he's like in bed and he leans back and he watches Vision Pro. And it's like, well, yeah, okay. So because you have determined you need to use every product every day, you use it for the one thing it's good for, watching video, laying back in bed.
Laying down, but it doesn't hurt your
Like
head.
laying
Right.
down to watch video, like you don't wear it all day to get work. You don't have your meetings in the thing. You don't do any of the stuff that you go back to your Mac.
and no one's paying $3,500 to watch TV for 20 minutes before they fall asleep. Like it's just not. It's not going to happen. Also, if you fall asleep with that thing on, like that's friggin' heavy.
I don't think you could. I think that like the video's too. It's like it's too in your face. But so when we're talking about like what's the state of this, like so certainly they're expected to release a new version of Vision Pro. The rumors vary whether it's coming out late this year or early next year, but that version is supposed to be essentially this one that is less expensive for Apple to make. They're consolidating parts. It's not going to look radically different. It's not going to have radically different specs. It might have some minor little tweaks to things like the audio system or something like that, but it's basically going to be a more affordable to manufacture version of the one they have now. And then there's future versions, a new high-end version that will have better specs and a new affordable version that's going to be lower spec than this. Who knows what they're going to cut? But it's going to be, and both of those are going to be like new products, and they're way out. They're not until at least next fall or something, maybe 2028. There's no new hardware saving grace coming this year. At best, what might happen is something late this year. It drops in price because there's this a version that Apple doesn't need to charge so much to make. So that means that like between now and at least the next couple of years, it's software. They've got to make this a case for this thing with software, and I don't know where you go from there.
Yeah, again, like they have to change how it works completely.
Yeah,
and even there, I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, a lot of the fundamental technology is super sound. Like the there's a lot going on to make eye tracking work. There's a lot going on to make virtual objects, whether they're floating windows or anything else, kind of like solid in space and stay put properly and not wobble around as you move around and all that. That's really, really hard. That it just kind of works and it looks proper and like they even cast shadows and stuff is crazy good. So there's a lot of the hard foundational stuff is there. The layer on top of that, the user interaction on top of that, and all the apps and how they work and stuff kind of need to be totally rethought, I think.
Yep.
Because
agreed.
A field of icons that you swipe around and you pick an app and you get floating windows in space and stuff is just not the VR experience that's going to sell people.
Well, I have a question about whether the platforms, even regardless of the price, it could be, I can't say free because people will adopt it if it's free, but you know what I mean? If it was, say they did come out with a quality headset that was $1,500. I mean, would the platforms grow at all even? I mean, because I think the fundamental problem I have with it is just that I don't see it as a viable platform to do anything other than entertainment, and that's a solitary experience. So as you guys were pointing out, so I still have a hard time thinking I'm going to use this instead of my Mac or my iPhone or my iPad.
Yeah, that the price is a problem, but it's not the only problem. Like you said, if they came out with one that's $14.99 and has essentially the same sort of resolution and all that kind of stuff. And let's even give them some more credit and say they deal with the battery pack issue. They deal with the weight. It's, it's more comfortable. Like, would you still buy one? Well, not with the software the way it is now.
I mean, I think more people would buy one.
More people would buy it. There'd be like a blip for a month or two.
Yeah.
There'd be like all these sales for a month or two, and then it'd drop off again because it's like it's the coolest experience. The experience that isn't, well, I can do this better on my Mac, is 3D video. Like, how much do you want to pay for a 3D video device? So yeah, they really need to rethink the software side of it into making fundamental software experiences into VR and AR experiences.
And and like the apps themselves need to, like, it's a gigantic undertaking. And I can't imagine that someone at Apple, it hasn't said, okay, this hardware is unsurpassed. Like, no one comes even close to it. But we have to figure out a way to make this, first of all, unique. Like, and I understand Apple's whole thing. Like, they want to make every device familiar and recognizable. So when you pick up a Mac and then an iPhone and then an iPad and a Vision Pro, like, it's all kind of, I remember this. Here's the home screen. Here are my app icons. I think Vision Pro spatial computing needs to be fundamentally different.
Yes.
Whether that involves a learning curve is fine, but it can't look like anything that we've used before, because that undermines the whole point of what it is.
Yeah, the whole I'm dragging the corner of windows and pinching to tap on things while I'm looking at them. It's to eye tracking is cool and stuff, but like, you're recreating pointers and touch interfaces on big windows floating in space, and that's not the VR experience. I'll give you two examples. I already spoke about the clock one. Why is clock a floating window instead of a clock on my wall? A virtual stopwatch in my hand that I literally click like a stopwatch. It's obvious. Like, why is that? But another one would be weather. The weather app's a big floating window, and that's neat. But if we have a weather prediction throughout the day, why can't I literally look into the sky, drag a time slider, and see the weather change throughout the day?
Totally.
Virtually, virtual fake sky all around me. See the weather come in from the side. See the isobars floating in the sky. Like, that's hard, but that's an actual VR weather app, not a floating window. I got floating windows on my Mac. I've got the weather app on my phone. It's not better to see it in VR. It's actually worse because now I have to somehow put this somewhere in my environment and turn and move and look. And if you have more than 3 windows going with a Vision Pro, you have to be ambulatory to use your device. You have to move around.
Yeah, and that's that movie thing that we were talking about. Like, so when Apple, the first commercial for Vision Pro was literally that. It was a bunch of movie characters putting on goggles and headsets, and to kind of drum up this idea of, like, this is like futuristic and next generation. Like, that's what you would see in a movie, like someone looking up and like they move their thing and, oh, 8 o'clock is going to rain, or, I don't want this window anymore, so I swipe it away. And I'm like, none of that exists on Vision Pro. It's just not. It's not that type of a thing. And I understand, again, like, Apple, like, that would be dramatically, radically different from anything they've done. And I don't think that's going to happen in visionOS 3. Or
no, I think if it's anywhere, it's further out than that.
Yeah. But that's almost what people expect when they put it on. Like, you don't expect to see a home screen with icons. You just don't.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for AI to make a lot of this very cool. You can already see there's the visual intelligence feature on iPhone, but there's already that accessibility feature where you can have it, you're pointing your camera at things and it just says what that thing is at the bottom of the screen for people like vision impaired and stuff. Like, I can see them sort of combining that stuff where, as I'm walking around, if I look at a flower, I can get like a little label of what that flower is, and I could tap it and get info on it, right? Just automatically as I'm walking around through life, or an animal or a person or any of this other kind of, that's the kind of, like you said, the Iron Man thing, the sort of, I'm seeing reality, but I'm getting all of this extra stuff on top of it. I'm getting all this context and information on top of it. So there's like room there for them to do these things, but like you said, none of that's. I don't think that's visionOS 3
or 4.
Yeah, maybe 4. I mean, they're doing all this stuff with Intel, AI and vision stuff coming up. So maybe some of those things will start to come in by then. And then you'll start to go like, oh, that's amazing. Now I can have my hands free. I'm walking around in my environment and I'm getting all of this like smart context of things. I'm looking at a poster and I'm just getting, and it's got a little label pop-up where I can easily add that date or location to my reminders, or, I'm seeing a piece of artwork and I can get like full context and history of this artwork or whatever, if I want. Like all this stuff where it's adding to what I see in reality.
Bloomberg's Mark Gurman reported that Apple is working on some smart glasses, AR smart glasses, that are kind of similar to what Meta and Ray-Ban collaborate on. But these are further out, maybe like in 2026, possibly.
Yeah, that product is to just to interject a little bit. They never said AR, just smart glasses. So like
that's true. There's a difference, yes.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to put 3D objects floating in space that you can manipulate and touch. It's going to have like a heads-up display at most, like a flat one eye or maybe both eyes, like display in one place. It's mostly going to be like cameras and microphones, and it's like the Ray-Ban Meta thing, except add in some Siri and some AI. I think that could be cool. I mean, the Meta ones, the Meta Ray-Bans, they have the thing where you can talk to their AI and stuff, and so that'll be the idea, is that like Siri would be able to see what you're seeing. It's just like the visual intelligence feature on your iPhone, except kind of going all the time, so it's not going to like put AR objects in 3D space around you, but you might get a little pop-up about something, or you might be able to tell Siri to record video or take pictures, or ask it what something is and get a response in audio. And so I think smart glasses might be appropriate there, but it's still a big step away from like that augmented reality future that everybody seems to want, where you just put on glasses and you get the Iron Man interface. And just,
I mean, that's the thing that Tim Cook has always said. Like whenever they talk about this stuff in interviews, like AR is the thing he wants. This is either it's not possible, which is quite possibly true, that it's engineering wise, you just can't do it in glasses this size yet. But even Vision Pro, like when the Vision Pro rumors were, for how many years before it came out, like that's what we thought it was going to be, a battery pack that you walked around with, and then it was like, oh no, actually it's a headset. Oh no, actually you can't really, there's pass through, but it's not, it's stationary. And then by the time it came out, it was like, well, this is not quite what we thought it was. It's not really AR at all.
Yeah, it kind of is. Like pass-through AR is kind of gimmick. It's never going to be as good as real glasses you look through. Like pass-through is always going to have that drawback. Even the best pass-through, it's really good pass-through. Unless you're in really low light, it's impressive in a lot of ways. But it's pass-through video is pass-through video. You have field of view problems. You have all this other stuff. So yeah, it just feels like all of this is a long way away. Meta showed off their actual augmented reality glasses, like prototype thing that they're working on. And they're glasses. They are glasses, but they're the big, huge, chunky, fat rimmed, fat.
And they're like $15,000 to make or something.
Yeah, I mean, they're never going to sell them. They said from the beginning, it's like the idea is that this is a step that developers, we work on things and figure out what to make. But then they've shown what the experience looks like, and it's still bad, though. Like, it's the best they can do, even in a lab type situation, not a product you can buy. And the actual display part that shows 3D stuff is this limited area, and anything around that, anything on the sides of your field of view, they can't draw on it. The colors are bad. The hand tracking slow. Like it's so far away. It's so far away from being like real AR glasses. So man, you guys just don't expect any of this stuff in the next several years from anyone.
I mean, visionOS 3 will bring some new something. there'll be a new app or a slightly retooled thing or a new feature, but
yeah, and plenty of new tools for developers.
Issues.
One of the things that they have talked about that I think is a really good idea is that they're talking about the same way that iPhones and iPads and Macs support natively and easily PlayStation controllers and Xbox controllers, that they'll support the PlayStation VR 2 controllers for precise hand movements and buttons and stuff. That's an excellent thing. It's unfortunately another thing you have to buy. So it's going to be hard for game developers and stuff to rely on that. But like, you need to really make real entertainment apps, you need buttons in your hands, precise hand controls, like stuff like that. So if they can do that tracking of those things very well and just sort of natively support that, that's a really good idea. That's a good step. But like, it's going to be that. It's going to be developer tools. It's going to be some tweaks, and it's going to be maybe some more Apple Intelligence stuff, maybe some UI tweaks to kind of match the iOS 19 and macOS 16 vibe that they go with. But
they're saying that the iOS 19, macOS 16 is going to really take cues from Vision Pro.
Yeah, so it's going to be somewhat kind of based on Vision Pro.
It's like maybe meeting in the middle. The other frustrating thing is that Apple itself doesn't really do a whole lot to promote Vision Pro. There's been like a couple of movies like, oh, here's a little film that we made that's just for Vision Pro, but like it's like once every 4 or 5 months, and it's like a 20-minute thing, and then that's it. Like, they need to come out with like Apple TV schedule type shows for, or whatever they are, videos for Vision Pro on like a monthly basis, if it's not weekly, because there's been nothing like they were supposed to have these experiences. There haven't been any. Maybe one, maybe two. There was like a soccer one, I remember. But, you need that stuff. And we've talked about it before, but the real killer thing would be live sports, which I think we're about 2 decades away from happening. But like, that would be the thing where you can pop on your Vision Pro and it's like you're sitting courtside.
They do some cool sports stuff, but it's all edited and comes out later. And it's like, nobody wants to watch the game from 2 weeks ago.
Right. Highlights are cool, but you want to watch a live game. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could put me courtside at an NBA game,
sure.
Like, while it's at the same time I'd be watching it on TV, just like whatever 1-2 minute delay, whatever it is, like, that is something people could pay for. Like, do you have any idea how expensive it is to go to sporting events? Like,
absolutely. Courtside, it's a couple $1,000s a ticket. Yeah.
Right. It just suddenly becomes like a worthwhile thing. So if once a week there was a live sporting event that you had the best seats in the house to actually watch while it happened, and you could turn your head and look around and look at things like
the Friday night baseball thing. If one of those 2 games a week was produced or shot for Vision Pro, that's a legitimate reason for baseball fans to buy.
And again, like you said, like live, or at least on such a minor delay that it's today's game. Even like, if it was delayed an hour, like, I think people would wait an hour to watch it like that.
Absolutely.
But nobody's going to wait 2 weeks to watch it like
2 weeks
that.
it's like months later sometimes.
Yeah,
they come out with that stuff. Yeah.
The hard part is not only taking all of this data and from the park, like, first you have to put these cameras and audio equipment and stuff in the park, which is difficult. Because you got to do it like times hundreds of sporting venues and stuff. But then you've got to get a massive amount of data from there to the servers to be processed and then out to people. And gosh, like, those kind of, you need a pretty good internet connection to stream what is essentially like a 12K video stream. Like, it's like 6K per eye, basically, like 3D thing. But people who are buying $3,500 Vision Pros probably do. Like, I feel like it's the kind of thing that they need to get started on already.
Yeah.
If they want to have that in place 2 years from now, they need to start, laying that foundation now. And we're not seeing it.
The live sports world moves very slow. I mean, we don't even really have regular 4K yet. We have some things that are broadcast in 4K. Like, it doesn't move quickly. And Apple's the only player in the game right now. So yeah, if they wanted to have this ready in 2028, whenever the cheaper one comes out, like, yeah, they got to be starting now. And they have the equipment. They certainly have the infrastructure. It's just a matter of prioritizing the production of it.
And there's probably a bunch of legal stuff around live broadcasting and all this other stuff that makes it very difficult. The place they could do it most easily has got to be the MLB, where they have this massive deal to cover everything,
Yeah, so the MLS, they do everything
MLS,
with even the Friday Night Baseball. Like, they have two games a week, no blackouts, no restrictions, and excellent production value. Like, they're putting in tons of effort into these two games. That I don't know what the viewership is. I mean, you have to subscribe to Apple TV to get them. It's part of it, but people complain weekly. Fans of the games that are on Apple TV complain because they're like, well, I want to watch it. I'm not a member, blah, blah, blah. But like, if they use that, just the existing thing, which I think is like 10 years, if I remember correctly, it was a long partnership. Start there. Baseball is probably the easiest thing to do with Vision Pro because it's, the field is the field. It's not like basketball where you're going back and forth and there's dunks and
baseball
you just need static. You could be static.
You need to take up about 6 or 8 seats worth of space.
Right.
On the third baseline, 10 rows up. Like, it's the best seats in the house.
Yeah,
but pay the money, put them there. To have these, because the cameras for these things are like these big old things, but you could have all that stuff there and put people in the ballpark, essentially, and it would just be an incredible experience. One of the things that we're coming out of this conversation to me is that we see so much opportunity for them to do all these incredible things, but the flip side of that is that means they're not doing any of these things.
I mean, I had my Vision Pro demo 2 years ago, and I still think about it sometimes. Like, it was that incredible. I don't want to run to the store to buy one.
Not even if it was cheaper. Like, it'd have to be a lot.
I wouldn't spend $2,000 on it. I wouldn't. If it was half price, like if Apple had run a sale tomorrow where it was $17, I wouldn't buy it. Because I know I'm not going to use it. It's a waste of money. I don't mind spending the money on a device like that if I'm going to use it, even weekly. I just don't think I would.
Yeah. I have one because we got and we reviewed, and I don't use it weekly. I have to find an excuse to put it on and update it and use it, and then when I'm done, I kind of can't wait to get back to my Mac where I can easily have 8 windows open without turning and moving around and trying to adjust. They're just stacked on the thing. I've got multiple desktops. It's super easy. Doesn't make my head hurt. Doesn't make my eyes hurt. It's like
to kind of wrap up this discussion. So last week it was revealed that Eddie Q, I forget which court case it was about. He made a comment that no one will be using iPhones in the next 10 years. And this is in reference to AI and some other things.
I think this was the Google, the court case. Yeah, so Google's been found to be anti-competitive. These are hearings about what is the remedy for what are they going to do? Are they going to split up? Are they going to split up Google? Which of its deals are okay and stuff? So,
and Eddie Q made this comment during his testimony. I don't remember what was the context exactly, but that made me think. So, what if it's not the iPhone in 10 years? Is it Vision Pro? What's the platform we're going to be? Is it like some sort of one of these AI devices that came out and failed recently? What is this new device? Is it something we don't even know what it is yet?
Yeah, the point he was making was about in the context of AI. He was talking about how it was the deal about how Google pays them tens of billions. I think it's about $20 billion a year or something to be. I mean, they haven't released the numbers. Reports have said it's around $20 billion a year to be the default search engine in Safari. And they were saying these AI search engines that are like just you say what you're searching for, you ask a question, it gives you AI powered search results. Sort of, it's not a list of links are getting more popular, and they're going to add them as options in Safari. And then in that context is what he said, that like in 10 years, you may not even need your iPhone. And I think he was talking about how AI and AI agents and stuff would do stuff for you and all this. I don't know that that's true. I think
They've been
every
saying
time
that for years.
every time somebody tries to predict that you'll just talk to some digital assistant who will tell you the things, I think it just has a view of what people use their iPhones for that's very narrow. Like that's very, well, I just want to ask it about things that are going on in the world and get an answer. And that's kind of not, that's, people definitely use their iPhones for that all the time, but they also use their iPhones to play games and do all kinds of other kind of stuff, you know, take pictures and all this stuff. So you're going to need some piece of hardware that does these things. And maybe it's AR glasses or a VR headset or something. Maybe you just have more different ways you can tie into the same set of services or software. And it's not, some people will have iPhone 27s and some people will have glasses and, you know, some people have, but they'll all kind of hit the same services. And so we'll see.
I mean, they've been making this prediction for decades. We still have laptops. They're basically the same as they were 3 decades ago.
Yep. But they are right. They were right that laptops are around and they're important. They're great. I use mine every day. But phones have overtaken them as the way most people, especially young people, do computer. So it's just it always takes longer than they think, though.
Yeah, I think 10 years is way too soon. But at some point, we'll probably be able to do all the computer things with glasses and maybe have a separate device for the sometimes things when you just want to play, I don't know, Candy Crush or something. And your eyes are tired.
Candy Crush is still around. The year 2050, Candy Crush. It's not even Candy Crush 3. It's like 2050, it's still Candy Crush 1. You're on level 7,000.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 934. Thanks to Jason Cross.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michael Simon.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to you, the audience. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to the Macworld Podcast in the podcast app, on Spotify, on YouTube at the Macworld Podcast channel, or through any other podcast app. Do you have any comments or questions? Send us an email at podcast@macworld.com or contact us through Blue Sky, Facebook, or Threads. Just search for Macworld and look for the blue mouse logo. Tune in next week for the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about the latest in the world of Apple. See you next time.